Hi everyone, John here. Someone online asked me if I would do a video about my finger picking style, so I'm just going to run through some of the tricks I use. Basic style is very similar to clawhammer style, which is used on old-timey banjo. It's the thumb, index, and middle, and those are going to be the three fingers that I mostly use. I do use whatever finger is necessary to get the sound I need, but for the most part, I'm using these three. And the index and middle are going to be stuck in this kind of claw shape a lot. And then the thumb is kind of free to do whatever it needs to all over the strings. It's not restricted to just the bass strings like in classical or normal finger picking. So I'm sure a lot of people who have seen my videos have sussed out that I really like Mark Knopfler. He uses a similar style. Another guitarist I really like that uses something kind of close is Richard Thompson. He uses a hybrid style where he's holding a pick between his thumb and index finger, and then these two fingers do the pretty finger picky type stuff. But we're sticking to something without a pick. The first basic pattern I'm going to run through is a roll that's kind of like a banjo roll. So it's going to be thumb, index, middle in that order, and it's just going to be a triplet pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to stick to a D chord shape because it makes it a lot easier to follow. And start out playing it very, very slow with a metronome if you have one. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then gradually speed it up as you get better at it. So you want to get it sounding very smooth at even a very fast clip. So. Just move your left hand around just to get used to kind of separating the what the right hand's doing from what the left hand's doing. And once you have that roll down, you can start focusing on having your fingers in maybe slightly different places. So I'm going to use a riff from a song of mine called Don Quixote's Deathbed Conversation with Sancho Panza. I'm sticking to stuff I wrote so that I don't get into copyright trouble, but all my stuff's a free download on my band's website, midwayfair.org, so if you need to go listen to the song to hear it in context. But this is from the final solo, and it's going to be very similar to the riff at the end of Sultans of Swing. Not identical, but what you learn from doing this is definitely transferable to something like Sultans of Swing. In this case, what I'm going to do is there's going to be a droning note on the B string, and then the E string is going to do something a little fancier with a pull-off. But it's still the same order, thumb, index, middle. And I'm just going to play it at speed here real quick, and then I'll break it down and go through it very slowly. Here. So what's going on is the thumb and index are responsible for the drone on the B string. And the middle finger is going to be the one responsible for playing the notes on the E string. So that's our basic thing, and this is without adding anything extra. It's just thumb, index on the B string, middle finger on the E string. And and we're sticking to a triplet pattern, but the second time through we're going to have a pull-off to kind of fill in some of the space on the E string. And that makes it sound very impressive, even though you can see from watching the left hand that there's really hardly anything going on there. You can also hear there's that little rest the first time through, so it's thumb, index, middle, short rest, thumb, index, pull off, so there isn't really a rest there. And the rest of that riff is just moving through a chord progression that's D, A, B minor. So you can find chords, you can find these broken chords all over the place on just these two strings. That's used in a lot of songs. Really famous example at the end of Hotel California, where all of the chords are the same sort of pattern on these two strings, or any two strings. You can just use those two strings and move the chords around all over the place. So the first one was the D chord here. A chord, C sharp, E, A for the pull off. B minor, F sharp, B, D for the pull off. And then this was just a walk down on the D. And for something like that where you're just playing one note, you can use whatever finger. I just use whatever finger is handy at the time. So really the only time you got to focus on what any particular finger is doing is when it's really important for keeping a pattern up. Next thing I'm going to run through is just a couple different ways I play chords and rhythm parts, because I'm the only guitarist in the band, so I've got to cover both parts. But if you don't have a pick, sometimes it can be a little awkward to play chords. First way I do it is just brace the index finger with thumb, just like I was holding a pick, but there's no pick, and then I use the nail of my index finger. And guys who are into gear might recognize Andy from Pro Guitar Shop uses this technique. This has a really chunky feel, kind of like using a very thick pick. You can still pick single notes. It's not as accurate as a pick. It's not as fast as a pick. Tremolo stuff like that doesn't sound quite as good, although you can use the tip of your finger instead. Next way I play chords is same clawhammer type deal I talked about in the beginning, and I use these two fingers to strum the chord. It sounds a little different than using the index finger by itself, maybe a little bit of a chorus effect and a little bit of a kind of broken feel to it. So here's both fingers. Here's one finger by itself. So one finger sound a little chunkier, those two fingers sound a little more open, a little more a little brighter. Third way, another way I do it is just the thumb, and I don't really have a particular reason for doing the thumb. It does sound a little different, so maybe if that's the sound I'm going for. You'll see a lot of old jazz guys play with just their thumb. And the last way I do chords is with an alternating bass being played by the thumb, and then these two fingers just playing a dyad. And very, very good for sitting in a mix that might have like a piano or a bunch of other instruments in it where you don't want to step on anything. So in this case, just a rock and roll riff. It's going to be thumb playing the A string, then the claw playing a fifth chord, so that's 5, 1, so root 5, 1, root 5, 1, but they're together. And then the alternating part is going to be the thumb coming down to the same string that the two fingers, the index finger is on. So before we had them alternating to do that little drone, now we're just going to be now the thumb's just going to be crossing over onto the same string so that you don't have to pick twice with your index finger, which would be very difficult. So here's a little rock and roll thing. And you can move that all over the place. And that's very good for alternating between a very straight rhythm, like, and then every once in a while you can break up the claw to add in some extra notes. So those are the really basic techniques I'm going to go through. I might do another video showing a bunch of other stuff, because there's a lot of different little tonality things you can get out of using your fingers, and all sorts of really strange things that you can't otherwise get. So I'll film another video here shortly.